Good morning, American literature students. Welcome to week number 7 of the 8-week semester. So we've got this week, next week, and then the week after that for about half a week will be the final exam, and we're almost done. By this point, many of you should be already pretty much caught up with the postings, unless you are posting on, or unless your research paper is on Poe, then of course you're 1 week behind everybody else. But there weren't very many that were writing on Poe, so most of you by now should be doing whatever the schedule says at this point, which this week is the slavery issue in the Civil War. The slavery issue, we've got Frederick Douglass. I think you're going to enjoy both readings. One of them is from My Bondage and My Freedom, which is an autobiography, which he talks about his childhood and being made into a slave, and then of course how he escaped as well. And then of course we got What to the Slave is the 4th of July, and that is a very important piece where he's going to say, hey, you Americans, you're celebrating your freedom and your independence on this 4th of July, yet you've enslaved my brothers. So what kind of hypocrites are you to celebrate Independence Day and rub it in our noses that we're not independent, that we actually have to work as slaves for you? So that is the Frederick Douglass readings. And then we've got two very famous readings by Abraham Lincoln. One is A House Divided, which is where the famous saying, a house divided cannot stand, comes from. What he's talking about here is the United States was a house divided and having some slave states and some free states. He's going to make the argument in this that, hey, we can't continue to run a nation like this, because eventually all states will have to be slave states. And in a way, even the free states are, because if a person comes from a slave state with a slave and goes to a free state, the slave is still a slave to him. So he's going to point out that, and then the second inaugural address, this is where he's going to talk about how ironic it is that both sides of the Civil War are fighting each other and praying for victory, and in reality not both sides are going to get victory. So whose prayers are God's going to answer? And he's going to argue that the truth is neither one. So that is this week's readings. Now if you are a week behind, you've got Emerson and Whitman, which many people posted on last week. I've not graded any of the more recent postings, and those of you that have had a chance, in fact the fact that I haven't graded last week's postings yet should have given a lot of you a chance to get caught up if you missed a week or two to get those postings in. You're running out of time. The reason I didn't do them is because I've been trying to finish reading these first drafts and give comments. I've only gotten through about half of them. And the reason is I take a long time on each draft. In fact, some of these first drafts I've read so far were so bad that it took me about an hour to go through and make all my markings and make all my comments. So I would think coming out of English 1102, some of these papers would be better than what I've seen. Some of the drafts that I read couldn't even get the works cited page correct. And the whole point of the annotated bibliography was to make that easier. So I will continue going through this. My goal is to try and finish this by about Wednesday. So by Wednesday evening, hopefully, I will have everybody's comments for you. If you have not turned in a first draft of your research paper, I don't know what you're waiting for. You've got to get that in if you want my input. The final draft won't be due until March the 1st, which is a Sunday evening. So those of you that already have your comments, you have almost a couple of weeks to get on it. Those of you that do not, hopefully in the next couple of days I'll be able to accommodate you, and you'll be able to get those final drafts written as well. Now, how do you see my comments? That's a darn good question. I'm glad you asked. If you go into the Useful D2L Handouts folder, you will see a handout that says how to see my comments in D2L. So if you open that up, it will take you step by step. You have to go back in through the Dropbox. You have to go into the little colored square there that shows how much of your paper is from other sources, which everybody should have some outside sources, because of course you did research. But as long as you've cited them properly, you haven't committed any kind of plagiarism. So look at that handout, open it up. It will tell you step by step how to see my comments. And it's a several step process. And take those comments seriously, because the whole purpose of those comments is to try to get you to write a better paper so that you get a higher grade on the research paper, especially since it is a high percentage of your overall grade. If I have not graded your papers yet or read your first drafts yet, please be patient with me. Again, these take time. When I'm spending an hour on a single paper, I can't get them all done in a single weekend. Not when I have a class of 33 people like I've got now. If you open up your paper and you see some blue dots in the body of the essay already, and you see the comments on your right-hand side, that means I've read your first draft and you're ready to go. If you don't see blue dots and the right-hand side of your paper is blank, that means that you're one of the ones I haven't read yet, but I'm going to get to it. All right, so again, the other postings that I haven't graded yet won't be as high a priority because I want to go ahead and get those first drafts read because that is much more important. And that's it. So, yeah, next to the last week of assignments in this class, these A terms go by quickly, don't they? And if you have any other questions, again, shoot me an email, or I may ask that you call me on my phone during my office hours, or if you're on campus, come by and pay me a visit. Over this past weekend, I met one of you, and it was really nice that I now have been able to, shake somebody's hand and put a face to the name whenever I actually grade these papers and grade these postings. And I always enjoy doing that. So if you're on campus, and I know that's not true of most of you, but if you're one of those who are on campus, stop by my office and see me. Ask me questions if you have questions and whatnot. And on that note, have a good week.